Good morning, St. Andrew's Youth Ministry fam. Jonathon here checking in from my deck. Friday. We made it to the end of another quarantine week. I'm so proud of you. Just wanted to do this a little different. If you can tell, I'm using my phone and not my laptop today because I want to take you on a little tour. So before we get into the devotion, I just want to take you on a little tour of what life at Casa Welch looks like right now. So, up above me is a sign that my wife and I love. The best is yet to come. I don't think I can flip the camera right now, and this is super sad that I can't flip the camera right now. So I'm just going to spin the camera around and show you. This is the tree out from our deck that we get to enjoy on a daily basis. Also, just so you know, one of my routines that I'm getting into right now is I'm getting a lot of reading done. So here is all my reading, while also watching old sporting events because I miss sports. So, just a little peek behind the curtain of what Casa de Welch is like. Now, as we end Friday, I just want to end with Psalm 56. So, if you have a Bible, feel free to turn to Psalm 56 for me. Psalm 56 says this: Be gracious to me, O God, for man tramples on me. All day long an attacker oppress me. My enemies trample on me all day long. For many attacks me proudly. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust, I shall not be afraid. What can flesh do to me? All day long they injure my cause. All their thoughts are against me for evil. They stir up strife, they lurk. They watch my steps. As they have waited for my life, for their crime will they escape. In wrath cast down peoples, O God. You have kept count of my tossings, put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? Then my enemies will turn back in the day when I call. This I know that God is for me. This I know that God is for me. In God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise. In God I trust, I shall not be afraid. What can man do to me? I must perform my vows to you, O God. I will render thank offerings to you, for you have delivered my soul from death, yes, my feet from falling, that I may walk before God in the light of life. Psalm 56. This is the word for us, the devotion for us today. I just love the first verse and the first line out of it in the first verse. Be gracious to me, O God. It's my prayer for us as we end this week. Be gracious to me. Be gracious to us. Be gracious to our family. Be gracious to our church. Be gracious to our city. Be gracious to our county. Be gracious to our state. Be gracious to our country. Be gracious to our world. God, be gracious to us in the midst of this season, in the midst of this pandemic. Be gracious to our neighborhood. Be gracious to our teachers and our classmates who we haven't seen except on Zoom. Be gracious to our brothers and sisters. Be gracious to our parents. Be gracious to our grandparents. Be gracious to us, God, as a whole, as a collective. Be gracious to us. It's what we need in this season. Gracious. We need God to be gracious to us. I want God to be gracious to you. I want God to be gracious to me. I want God to be gracious to my wife. I want God to be gracious to my family in California. I want God to be gracious to my wife's family in Minnesota. Be gracious to us. My challenge, my question for you, family, as we end this week, as we end another week on quarantine, another week of a world of COVID-19, my question for you as we head into the weekend, as we get to head into a new week soon, is where has God been gracious to you in the midst of all this? Where has God been gracious to you in the midst of all this, in this season, in this pandemic? Where has God been gracious to you? And also, where do you need or want God to be gracious to you in the midst of this pandemic? Where or how do you want God to be gracious to you? So take some time this week and take some time today and think through how God has been gracious to you, but also think through where you still want to see God be gracious to you, or how you want God to be gracious to you. See you next week, St. Andrews.